When you think of drugs, crime, gangs, violence and prostitution usually also come to mind. Now imagine a world where drugs like marijuana, heroin, cocaine and even tik were legal and free. It certainly requires a mind shift. Currently, the enormous profit incentive for gangsters and organized crime to produce and sell these drugs in the illegal market is fueling the violent gang wars. And increasing the number of addicts and users exponentially. So what if a different approach was taken? The war on drugs can't really be viewed as a success story. Millions of rands are thrown at the policing of gangs and drug pushers. More millions are spent on drug rehab programs. But it's of little consequence.
The money involved with drugs, the illicit sale of drugs, is so huge that the resources of the state are puny in comparison.
It is such an incredibly difficult thing to police. It's extremely difficult. And also, what is becoming more and more obvious is whatever model they're using, whatever policing model they're using to police, let's look at drugs, for example, is not working.
Traditional policing methods don't seem to be making a dent.
Trying to get information from the community, which is also quite difficult, in order to lead to arrest and prosecution, search and seize operations, just almost normal policing, but they've upped the numbers.
And a lot of research shows that the prohibition of substances like alcohol and drugs has never worked anywhere in the world.
The true mark of madness is where you do repetitive, futile things over and over and over again, and you do not learn from your mistakes. And simply throwing resources at the drug problem is not making any progress. You can walk down Long Street at any time and you can buy whatever you want of any hue from anybody who happens to be pushing it quite openly on the street.
And the meagre wages paid to cops don't help matters either.
Any policeman at a lowish level or even high up is open to corruption because of the disparity between what the drug lords can pay and what the state pays them to police it.
So the crisis seemingly continues to escalate.
Detractors say relaxing the laws around drugs will only exacerbate the problem. Experts disagree. They say taking away the profit potential will take the wind out of the sails of the drug trade.
What these steps would change is users' access to clean drugs, devoid of harmful additives like rat poison, as well as easy access to treatment. Criminalization of drugs makes it harder for users to seek help. Instead, it fills the prisons with addicts.
What happens in this country? They lock up people for possession and they come out hardened criminals. So all you're doing is actually exacerbating the problem.
Across the world, the debate around decriminalization and legalization of drugs is moving up the agenda.
More and more countries are looking at decriminalization of drugs, but more specifically cannabis, marijuana, dacha. Okay. In fact, there are 24 countries that have decriminalized cannabis already.
Our own central drug agency has been looking at the Portuguese model. Portugal decriminalized all drugs 12 years ago, and the results have been remarkably encouraging.
The first thing everybody said was, oh, drug use is going to spike. It didn't. Right? And then secondly, they were terrified that Lisbon was going to become the capital of drug tourism. It didn't.
In fact, quite the opposite is true.
They found, and because it's coupled with treatment, they found that within the first 5 years of the implementation of this model, drug use had gone down by half.
But not everyone is entirely convinced. While the Cape Town Drug Counselling Centre agrees that some of the policing measures are failing dismally, the centre doesn't endorse any attempts to soften the laws.
Decriminalisation of any substance for us poses a huge concern. simply because we do not have the infrastructure or the capacity to be able to turn around the number of users that will be accessing service.
Potts disagrees that drugs manufactured legally in a controlled environment and distributed at hospitals coupled with treatment would solve the growing epidemic. In fact, he argues it would increase usage and won't reduce gangsterism.
I come from a community where gangsterism is very ripe. I grew up there, I still live there. Take away the power for sale of drugs, you're not going to stop the criminal activity or the gang-related influence in that community.
And on the ground, the reaction to the idea of legalization is also mixed.
That will stop activities like drug dens and movement and people walking around in the middle of the night. It's just chaotic, it's hectic.
The people will never stop drugging, they will never stop selling drugs because drugs are legal. There's money worth it.
Decriminalisation is a hugely emotive topic. All right, that's why it needs evidence-based research and implementation.
Either way, it's a debate that's getting louder and louder. Barbara Friedman, Cape Town.
News that moves. eNCA.com.